That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Fairly learned here.
Welcome to the MOTN-Trospective. This is the Masters of the Nerdiverse podcast presents Introspective, where we take a deep dive into one of pop culture's most popular franchises and break it down based on all forms of, I would say, representation of that franchise. May it be from movies, books, video games, comics, music, any form of communication that this franchise withholds, we are tearing into. I am, of course, your host, Mike G. And with me, as always, is...
Austin, I am here. We are here. We are ready to die.
We are ready to die. Time to float.
Exactly.
Time to float. Let's talk about... Can we talk about Stephen King for a second? Like this madman?
I love that he had a cameo in this movie. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, man. You can afford it. You could afford it. I love when Stephen King shows up in anything. Cause he does cameos different than other cameo people. You know what I mean? He's more subtle about it. That's actually very, very fair. I don't know, cause what separates a Stephen King cameo from, let's say, an M. Night Shyamalan cameo?
Well, wait, what do you mean?
Like a Stephen King cameo, let's say for the sake of example, Pet Sematary, right? He has a cameo as the priest doing the funeral of the baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very understated, has like one or two lines, wouldn't know he was there if you didn't know, right? Whereas M. Night Shyamalan in, let's say, Lady in the Water has multiple scenes as some kind of magical writer, some Alan Wake level super writer in his own story. You know, there's different levels of subtlety there.
That is fair. It is like a self-pat to be. That is Stephen King's style in the first place. He is a great author, to be honest.
I mean,
and he knows this.
Yeah, he knows it. But he knows it, but he's not cocky. In a weird way. He wears it well.
He's just a little cocky. Not like overly so, not like Alan Moore, but he's just a little cocky.
I mean, he only gets upset when people butcher his stuff. Like, he hated Stanley Kubrick with a passion because of what he did to The Shining.
The Shining was still a good movie, though.
The Shining's still one of the best horror movies ever made. It just wasn't Stephen King's book. You know what I mean? And that's enough. Like, how dare you sully the pristine perfection of my book. And Stephen King into himself, of course, has some duds. But even his duds are better than the writings of most writers. You know what I mean?
That's also very true.
I mean, was Maximum Overdrive even a book? I don't even remember.
No, it wasn't. It was just a fucking movie that he just wanted to do.
He's so insane, dude.
It's just Carrie on drugs.
It's Carrie meets The Car. You ever seen The Car?
No, but I do know that Carrie's a better movie.
Well, it's Carrie, man. Carrie's amazing. There's not many movies better than Carrie, dude. And
Carrie is so very interesting. Also, Maximum Overdrive was utter garbage.
I mean, the only passing point on Maximum Overdrive is that it had a murdered Dr. Pepper machine. And
it also had a Green Goblin truck face.
And trust me, as a young Marvel nerd, I saw that and it instantly became my favorite movie. Immediately. Like, that's the Green Goblin. He's the main villain of this movie. Whereas Spider-Man, we don't need him. This rules, you know? Subtle. That's not subtle. That's very on the nose. And I wonder if they even asked Marvel to do that. They probably just did it. You know?
So here's a question. Is Stephen King better when his material is put into a miniseries or to a movie?
I want to say it depends on the book. Like, Carrie is the perfect vehicle for a film. If you were to drag Carrie out into a miniseries, it may not have the same punch as let's say The Stand. Like if you put The Stand in a 2.5-hour movie, it wouldn't work. Look at The Dark Tower. That's the miniseries. But if you take something like the Tommyknockers or the Night Flyer, it just fits better in a movie format. I just think some of his writing lends better to book into film. I mean, to film into the small screen. You know, I just think it depends on the story. Like, how do you put The Stand into one movie?
I mean, you have things like freaking Rose Red. You have goddamn.
You have
the Langoliers.
The Langoliers. You have the Gerald's Game.
Oh God, Gerald's Game. That was actually really entertaining.
Watch that on Netflix. Gerald's Game on Netflix is one of my favorite adaptations of King ever. They kill it.
It is actually pretty nice.
Yeah. So,
then you have like things like It, which we talked about in the very, very first time. So, and then you have apparently The Outsider is amazing.
Yeah. I even heard Cell is really good.
I mean, you talked about Storm of the Century last time as well.
Yeah,
that was actually a really good one too.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I can't think of another writer that has impacted cinema as strongly as Stephen King.
I really want.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting also 1922. That's a freaking movie.
1922. Amazing.
God.
Amazing.
I just really want a miniseries for Salem's Lot for freaking.
We'll get one. I think
just
the way Netflix is. I think Netflix is. I would be surprised if Netflix didn't already have the rights to Salem's Lot.
What about The Stand?
The Stand's one of those books that I don't think they'll ever get right.
Well,
it's too big.
People say that for a lot of things.
It's like Dark Tower. It's like Lord of the Rings. You know, it's like you would need the right director at the right time with the right cast to get it right. It'd have to be lightning in a bottle.
I mean, they did it for the Lord of the Rings. To be honestly fair, the first ones, not the Hobbit ones.
No, but Peter Jackson at that time was at his peak. That was lightning in a bottle. You know what I mean?
And then we have The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan coming out on Amazon Prime sometime. It's like, oh, I hope that's good. I really
fingers and toes crossed, right? Fingers and toes.
Yeah,
but,
it's one of my favorite fantasy series. But we're getting sidetracked.
Yes, we are. I was just gonna say, let's actually talk about the subject of the end, this final introspective episode on the works of Stephen King's It, and that is It Chapter 2. 2019. Directed by Andy Muschietti, yet again, to complete his 2-part film. I would say, what's not a trilogy? What is it? A duality? Duology? I don't know.
Yeah, let's go with that. A duality.
A duology. On the other half of the spectrum, the first It Chapter 1 focused strictly on the children, on them as children, which is to some the more interesting part of the story. But I gotta say, after seeing this film, he made the adult section, he gave more meat to the adult side of things in this movie, which weren't in the miniseries.
There's some interesting bits here and there. Like, I really do. I mean, one of the first things you see is the brutal public execution of a gay man who was then murdered by Pennywise in the very first opening bits of this movie.
Right. Mind you that my memory of the book is very shoddy, so I will lean on you for that.
Oh, it's very accurate. Like this is pretty much a scene taken straight from the book, which I really did like, actually.
Yes.
It was really well done. And then you get Mike coming in, and Mike's just like, oh shit, blood on the wall.
Yeah, he already knows. And for me, with that scene, of course it's jarring, of course it's painful to watch, but it means what it tells me is that the gloves are off. Pennywise is killing adults now, because these weren't kids; these were adult men. You know?
Yeah, which is I think they kind of gone over beforehand that Pennywise more so feeds off of fear and things. Mm-hmm. And I guess you could say that this man who was brutally beaten was like just peppered with fear. So maybe that's what did it for him.
Maybe that's what took Pennywise over and was like, okay, we're going to start this year 27 off right. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it sucks because these two gentlemen get no justice in this film.
That's just life.
The kids run off. You don't, and you would think the way storytelling is that you'll see these kids down the road as like a lost and found. Maybe one, Pennywise got one of them. No, their bigotry just runs off into dairy. You know,
and I mean, to be fair, from there on, we see things kind of develop pretty quickly. I mean, you get all of the Losers Club as adults coming in pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Mike calling him up and going, "Hey, it's Mike Hanlon from Derry.
Yep,
it's back." And then they all just lose their collective shit.
Yep. I like the little touch of Eddie's wife being the same actress who played his mother.
That is pretty great.
I love that. I caught that. I was just like, holy snikes. Like, that's the same actress who played his mom in the first one. That's so smart. He just married his mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, also they gave Eddie a lot more in this one, because in the miniseries, Eddie was just a loser who lived with his mom. That's what they portrayed him as. In this one, it's more so, he has his own limousine driving escort service in the middle of New York. Yeah, he's pretty successful.
Yeah, he's risk management is what he kept saying.
You're right. In the book, it was he had a limousine escort service, and this one he's a risk management guy. I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, Eddie's very confident until he's not in this movie.
I love you, mommy.
I love you, mommy. What? And then she called him, and then he got into his car accident. I think this is a good place for us to start drilling down characters and start going character for character and just talking about them overall with the, I would say, primary focus on this film's portrayal of them. And let's start with Beverly. Jessica Chastain.
Same. I mean, this Beverly feels more concrete compared to the miniseries one.
Yeah, 100%.
She feels like she's an actual person this time around. And she does the same thing that all the other Beverlys do, which is marry a weird, obsessive control freak guy. Who does not show up at all afterwards.
I love the fake out where you're expecting him to lose his shit, right? And he's like, yeah, why would I be mad at you? Yeah, do what you got to do. You're like, okay, that's weird. Until he flips and is like, I just wish you weren't a liar.
Yeah.
I wish you weren't a liar. And then things just escalate exponentially to the point where she pretty much tries to kill him because he leaves her no choice. Because he's abusive.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, then he starts taking a trail off. It's like, oh, God, we're going this route. Mm-hmm. And then she whacks him over the face with a freaking, what was it, like a cigar holder?
Cigar holder, something. It was
glass, something or other.
In the scene was shot in the dark. So, at least my TV was dark. And you couldn't barely see it. And you get that escapism again from Beverly. Almost fading back into that submissive role that the book wants her to be, but in this series, she's not really submissive like that.
That's very true. And this one, she's a bit more direct, which I really did like.
Yeah, she's a lot. And I would fair to say that the young actress who played Beverly was more direct than Jessica in this film.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But hey, Bev had some pretty good moments here and there. She had her moments in the Chinese restaurant when they first got back together. Mm-hmm. When she was that creepy old woman scene.
Oh my goodness, that was amazing. I wasn't expecting that. Of course, we saw the little naked shimmy from the trailer. Like, what the hell is that? But then the old lady to go full, Wendigo on her.
I love that her face looked so stupid with her eyes constantly rolling. It was just like, oh, this is just comedic to look.
Yeah, it's goofy, It's and that's one thing about these films. It's never too scary. It's always a little goofy. You know what I mean? She looked like a chameleon.
One of my favorite funny scenes is later on, but we'll talk about that soon enough.
I will once again say, out of all the parents, I hate Beverly's father the most. I can't stand him. That actor does a great job of disgusting me. He's in this movie as like a terror haunt for Beverly. I can't
when she's in that toilet scene covered in drowning in a sea of blood. His face is just there with everyone else.
Yeah,
it's like slut, whore, door bag, and then it's his face going, "You always be my girl, won't you, Bev? Always be my girl."
Man. It just gets right under my skin. I hate that shit.
Oh yeah,
he does a great job. The actor does a great job to get under my skin. Beverly's bouncing relationships between the losers, going from Bill to Ben to even, I would say, Richie a little bit, but that's the nature of her character, though. She's the support. She's mental support for the entire group.
She kind of holds them together. Yeah.
Yeah, she's the glue person throughout this film. I think Jessica Chastain did a good job of being tough, but also being vulnerable at points and being the anchor as she is the one who saw the premonitions of all their deaths. You know, that's what she pretty much tells everybody. Yeah, I've seen us all die eventually, and it's not good. When everyone's scrambling to get out of there, she's the one that says, "Yeah, run if you want, but we're all going to die miserable deaths if we don't handle this right now."
Exactly.
You know, do what you want, but this is just how it is. And with that, we can segue, according to this list order, to Bill, James McAvoy.
So I actually did not care for Bill in this movie very much. He felt kind of bland.
Yeah. James is a great actor.
Oh, he's one of my favorite performances of James McAvoy is in Split.
Yeah, of course. Oh man, he should have won an Oscar for that.
It was actually a really, really well done performance. But
really well done, nuanced performance.
I just don't think like this example of Bill. I just don't think James was given the full flaunt he was wanted to run with, because honestly, it's just kind of
dry.
Blech. It's dry. It's boring. It's vanilla.
And what the thing about this Bill is that in the miniseries, he had his relationship with his wife, right? Which was kind of a through line throughout the entire miniseries. In this movie, his wife's in a scene and never spoken of again.
And that's really it.
And I was waiting for the wife to kind of show up down there some kind of way, you know, but no, they completely cut her out of the through line. And one of the most touching parts of the miniseries was the bicycle scene where Bill's trying to snap his wife out of it, you know, driving at, you know, bicycling down this hill. And I was expecting that, but we never got it.
Yeah.
It just was like, oh yeah, she's mean. The director's mean. Apparently he makes sucky endings, and that's her through line. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
I think that's what kind of my expectations of Bill kind of leaning back onto the miniseries scenes, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's what made it kind of weaker for him this time around.
But then again, his interactions with the new age child, and that child kind of being a victim of dairy.
Kid got some top billing. Good God, for being 8 years old.
Who was that kid, man? He's somebody's
I don't
cousin.
know.
That kid had more scenes than freaking Stanley, dude. You know?
Oh, God, you're right.
Well, we'll talk about him later, but yeah, that kid got ultra destroyed. You know?
I mean, Stanley barely has anything really going on for him, but yeah.
Outside of the ending, but we'll get there. But yeah, like Bill's interaction with this new kid, the new kid living in his house, the kid mentioning that he's hearing voices in the drain and he's trying to talk him down, but he just looks like a crazy adult to the kid. The kid is like, but candy and popcorn in the parade. And he's like, aren't you listening to anything I'm saying?
Do you remember that scene where like Pennywise is underneath the bleachers with that one girl who's a birthmark on her face?
I was going to talk to you about that before moving on to the next character, so we can do that now.
Yeah, that was actually a really good, like, just random child murder scene.
It was unnecessary, man.
Oh man, it's like
dude.
1, 2, and it's like just stop dead ass staring.
Yeah, and that goes back to my original statement about this Pennywise, which we'll talk about, is that he's a creature wearing a human suit.
Oh yeah, entirely, 100%. They get it. They just get it.
They get it right, and she's like, "You're supposed to say 3," and before she can get the word out, he venoms her face pretty much.
Oh yeah.
He pretty much like carnages her face, and you're like right on her birthmark too, which is very telling. You know what I mean? And I love it. It's gory, it's unnecessary, it's brutal, and it reminds you that Pennywise has work to do in these 27 for these 27 days or however long this is going to last, and kids are in danger yet again. And this little girl just happened to meet her fate for being kind. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's kind of nutty, man.
There goes your listen. Don't listen to strangers, kids. Tell them fuck off and walk away.
Kids never talk to strangers, no matter what they tell you. Ever.
Just say "fuck you," you smell, and walk away.
You smell. You have stink lines, and then run towards your parents. Speaking
are you naturally gray haired, or do you just go bald early?
Who, me? Oh, that's what you said.
I think it just fell apart, honestly.
That's fine. It fell apart. You know, I was like, me? I was like, I got like 1 or 2 grays. Speaking of characters who have punchlines, let's talk about Richie. Bill Hader.
And I really dig Richie in this one.
Bill Hader, and it's part of that comedian gene, where comedians have such an easy through line to be dramatic actors. I don't know what it is.
It's because typically they use comedy as a ways to deal with personal shit in their life, and so they project. But when they actually try to address it and build off of that damage, when they weaponize their own damage, they get really good at it.
Look at Tom Hanks, Oscar winner, Robin Williams. I want to say Oscar winner.
And Carey, generally great actor,
amazing, legendary actor. Bill Hader just has that where he humanizes Richie in a dimension that I wasn't aware of. That Richie was, even if he didn't really admit it to himself, was homosexual. I didn't know that.
So the thing is, I could see that being a thing for Richie because, I mean, there's nothing that's really overt. There's nothing that really builds off of it. And honestly, it's not a defining characteristic of Richie.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a part of him that helps kind of propel his character case in the series.
Yeah, I enjoyed that representation because it was subtle to me, especially the moment where he's playing he's playing Street Fighter with frickin' Bauer's cousin or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And he had his awakening in that moment. And he didn't know what it was, but he knew it was something. And then, of course, Bauer just comes in like a bull in a china shop and blows the whole thing up. You know what I mean? But
yeah. And then they have like that Paul Bunyan scene, which was actually pretty great.
Yes, it was on the borderline of being cringe. It was just on the border of being cringe.
Oh yeah, when Pennywise started like floating down and everybody started like dancing and
let's look at the dancing clown, and his face starts to black hole sun distort. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I like how like in the entire time all the people in the background are dancing in tune to Pennywise as well.
Yes, Pennywise having a full conversation with Richie, and they do, and the thing, my one problem with chapter 1 was the scare tactic where there's a build up musically, it dead stops, and then rah, then they just rush you, right?
Yeah,
so that happens, and they really gave Bill Skarsgård more to do in this movie.
Thankfully, so yes. But
we'll get to Bill. But Bill Hader's portrayal in Richie, I prefer it to the miniseries portrayal, because Bill was a bit more subtle. He was still jokey Richie, beep Richie, and he still had his foibles, and him constantly trying to escape the situation made me laugh.
I kind of like new Richie more, honestly.
That's what I'm saying. I prefer new Richie to old Richie.
New Richie just had, old Richie was still really good. That fucking like library scene where he saw Pennywise as an adult was still pretty great as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, amazing actor.
But I think Bill Hader just brings an element to it that's like just unseen, honestly.
I think this role will catapult Bill into other stuff.
We should probably like talk real quick. Eddie in this movie is a lot more savage.
Okay, we can jump. Let's jump to Eddie then. Let's talk about Eddie. James Ransone. James Ransone has been in a couple of things. He's more of a pitch hitter kind of actor.
He's a very quiet, unassuming looking guy.
But he's so full of rage in this movie.
I love it.
He's so mad, dude. He's constantly telling Richie to fuck off, dude.
And he's like constantly. Very much like he really drew in the inner New Yorker to like be constantly fuck off. And he just, when he's like in that basement level, seeing the hallucination of his mom and the leper again.
That's a great scene.
And as an adult, he comes back to it and he sees the leper again. He starts choking the leper to death. And it's like, oh, damn, he's losing his mind.
He owns it, dude. He conquers his fear to the point where Angel in the Morning starts playing and he gets, the Nickelodeon Ultra Barf.
That was a little too much for me. Like, if they kept the barf, it'd be fine, but just change the music.
That music was so. I get that it was wanting to be funny.
It was too much.
That was jump the shark moment. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it was,
and that will cost this episode this in a bottle film 18,000 points. No, I'm just kidding. Just that whole Halloween Horror Night scene where the mom is strapped in. And the leper is attached to a chain. You know, it's all very Halloween Horror Night, but it's effective
and then
because you're right there with him.
Yeah, and Eddie, as a young kid, has to deal with the fact that he saw his mom's tongue box get punched in by a leper.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not the first time he dreamt that.
That's a phrase, isn't it? Get your tongue box punched in.
But what I will say about Eddie, and this is a scene later in the film when Bowers comes back. And the roles are reversed, where Mike is supposed to get kind of the hit, Eddie gets stabbed in the mouth by Bowers and takes it like a G pretty much.
Yeah, he does. He's like, why? Why'd you do that?
Why'd you do that? What? He was more confused.
And then he like stabs Bowers in the chest.
I love that. It was so cool because he just kind of cowers into the shower and it just sits there quiet and totally takes Bowers by surprise because he stabs him in the sternum, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, granted, that's like one of the heaviest parts of bones in the body, so probably didn't do that much damage, but still, fuck.
Yeah, then Bowers fell out the window like freaking Michael Myers. You know what I mean? Pulled out the knife like it was nothing.
He just waves his hand, bye.
You know, powered by crazy, I guess.
And then you have freaking Richie come up behind, like saving Mike's fucking life with what, like a fire poker to the back of the head?
Nah, it was like a hatchet or something, a medieval hatchet.
It was something sharp, man. I was like, it's kind of dark to see, but all of a sudden, Richie just shows up and goes, "I did it.
I did it." He just barfs, and he's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Nah, man, I just killed a guy." And then we never heard of it again. Everybody goes on with their lives. That's one thing. That's the one plot hole. Like Richie's prints are on that. There was no case. There was no like court case about that. Like you killed a man in self-defense. I get it.
The turtle provides.
The turtle provides.
So how about that fucking Henry Bowers? That man who had probably 10 minutes of screen time this time around.
Before we move on to Bowers, let's talk about the death of Eddie. Let's close out Eddie.
Eddie went out pretty hard.
He went out harder than he did in the miniseries, I tell you that much.
Yeah, in the miniseries, he just like, oh, I see the deadlights. My soul.
Shake.
And this one, it's more like, I'm going to throw this fire poker into Pennywise's fucking mouth, hurt him real bad, and then get stabbed through the chest, and then get ragdolled away and expose a fatal weakness.
Fatality. You know?
I mean, Eddie was honestly the hero for this one.
He saved the day. He faced his fear and he saved the day. It's really, he was the martyr. He was the champion. You know what I mean?
He was the one to beat.
Yeah, man. And with that, let's talk about Bowers for a second, man.
Goddamn, man. He exposes what's wrong with America. You get put into an insane asylum, you just go insane, even though you might not be.
No help. No, he might as well have been in Arkham Asylum with the Joker and shit. You know, like he's just going nuts. Hey, you going nuts over there? And here's no medicine. Here's no reform. Just go to your room. Chill out. Why aren't you chilling out?
The fact that he saw what was it, Hockstetter?
Yep.
The kid who was like the creepy like fridge boy in the books, but in this one he was just like a creepy kind of
crawly monster. Yeah.
Yeah. And this time around, he was just like a straight-up skeleton boy who drove Bowers around in a beat-up old convertible.
Man, that kid was dipping, man. Who was driving the car? Was it driving him. The car?
It was Hockstetter. He was driving the car.
How was that possible?
Pennywise took his body for a joyride and gave Bowers joyrides.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that.
I know, right? In the book, they really addressed that. Hockstetter almost like basically pulled Henry's pants down, but Henry basically pushed him off and ran away in like homophobia fear.
What is up with Stephen King, my dude?
Stephen King can be pretty lit sometimes. Sometimes not so much.
Bowers in this movie is pretty much He's pretty much the Joker, dude. He's just
he's pretty unstable. Yeah, he's pretty fucking unstable.
I'm gonna kill you all, and he just doesn't lose that ever. There's no repentance for him. There's no understanding. He's just raw.
It's
mayhem, dude.
It's preferable that way. Just let him be crazy, stupid, and the worst, and he'll be fine. That's what he deserves to be.
He's literally the goon, dude.
Exactly. And he does a really good job of it. He's the human element that the gang did not expect.
Yeah, man. This isn't a dream. This is me. This is Freddy Krueger. This is Jason. I'll sock you in this jejunum. Mike. We're talking about Mike.
Man, Mike's interesting in this one.
Isaiah Mustafa, dude.
In this one, he's a lot more unbalanced.
Mike's a trip. Like, Mike is the biggest character shift of anyone.
And it's not out of place.
And that's the beauty of it, right? It's an extreme extension of what he was in the book and what he was in the miniseries. Because, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, is any of that Native American spirit walk stuff in the book?
Nah. No, as far as I can remember, nah.
All of that was just this, right?
The Shapakawiya?
The Knickknack Indians.
Okay, no, Mike, no, we can't do that.
It's not the Knickknacks? You sure?
No, that's a little racist, Mike. We're not going to allow that today.
No, man, I'm talking about Pet Cemetery. That's what the burial ground was called in Pet Cemetery.
Fuck, you're not wrong. Oh god.
I'm just not throwing anything out here, man. I'm making the
Ching Chong Asians for a second.
No, dude, no, man. I'm talking about the Knickknack burial ground with the Knickknack Native Americans.
Out some racist bullshit.
No, dude, I haven't completely lost my mind. There's a through line here. I'm trying to tie things together, dog.
I deleted that out of my head. I forgot how bad that is. Yeah,
man. Why? Because I just hear freaking Herman Munster saying that like 7 times in the movie. You gotta bury him up there in the old Knickknack burial grounds. Sometimes dirt is better. But why? Okay, back to Mike. Pretty much drugging Bill.
Yeah, like straight up, Mike is close to date raping Bill.
Bro, he just sent it. He's like, you need to see. Like, see what, bro? We're just hanging out, bro. You need to see. Next thing you know, Mike is on this infinite trip. I mean, Bill is on this infinite trip.
Yeah, that's like peyote, but worse. It looks like.
He's like, it's a root, dog. You all right? It's a root.
Nah,
it's a root, man.
Not all natural things are good for you.
Are good for you. And he sees like the birth of Pennywise, and the dead lights come from the infinite cosmos.
Yes. So the ritual of Chud does not work in this movie at all, which is interesting because
it fails. Yeah,
it fails pretty hardcore. But at the same time, it reveals stuff, so it makes sense at least.
At least they were in the proper, like, they wouldn't have known to be where they needed to be to actually take it down. At least they did that. It took them to the right place in the right time. I will give it that. But there's a scene where everyone freaks out on Mike, like you didn't know this you knew this wasn't going to work. We're just like, yeah, they told me it didn't work back then. So why try it again? Because it's us. That was his scapegoat.
Mm-hmm. But man, Mike is he's a lot more. It feels like he's just a lot more jittery and a lot more kind of in this series as well. So yeah, I think Mike in this one is pretty great. I love him a lot.
Yeah, Mike's a completely different character, but it still fits his motif.
And his entire character and arc at the very end is "fuck this place, I'm out."
Yeah, which did Mike do that in the miniseries?
I'm not terribly certain. I feel like he might have alluded to possibly taking a break and vacation, but in this one, it's straight up, "I'm out, bye." Nice,
makes sense, and it makes sense to him. Like, he's been there his whole life carrying this burden. It's over now. Live your life, man. Just go anywhere, go everywhere. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what Stanley's wish was. But we'll get to Stanley in a bit. Let's move off of Mike, man. Mike is going to be the end of me.
Because he's you.
Because he's me. I can't defeat myself. Let's talk about Ben. Jay Ryan.
Oh man, I loved Ben. I loved his flashback scene as well.
I love this flashback scene. I love the scene he had with Beverly. I do not like the actor of Ben in this movie.
So I feel like the actor of Ben is a little too
Handsome.
Ben's supposed to be a handsome guy by the end of the book.
This guy looks like Captain America, man.
Yeah, this guy's like I'm Captain America's hotter older brother kind of guy.
It just seemed too far. Like I don't know if it's just me being like John Ritter all day, 1,000 years John Ritter. You know,
John's pretty good.
Can't defeat that, but I do like they gave Ben a lot more to chew on in this movie.
I loved it, and I really think his scene with Beverly as a kid really helped sell things.
Mm-hmm.
Because it goes from a scene of, oh, this is really interpersonal to, oh, what the hell, Beverly? And then to, oh, no.
Because, you know what, there is actually a giveaway at the beginning of that scene when Bev walks in with the cigarette. If you look at the projector, her shadow is the shadow of the clown.
I did not catch that. God damn it.
Yeah, you could. She's wearing a puffy shirt, so it kind of matches it. And she has puffy shoulders, but when you look at the shadow, the hair is wrong, and her puffy shoulders are way too big. They're the shape of its shoulders.
Damn it! I need to catch that.
Yeah.
Also, whenever Ben's like running through and he's like hiding in the locker, and then Pennywise in the locker, and he's got this like stupid face on him.
On his face. He's like,
and he's just like, "Crispy fat boy."
I love it.
I think that joke might have been the impetus to make that entire fake kiss out scene in the first place. Just to have Pennywise go, "Kiss me, fat boy."
And it's just wrong.
I had to stop and pause and laugh so fucking much because I love that scene in the miniseries where it's just like Pennywise with all the makeup skewed over, holding on to Ben and going, "Kiss me, fat boy." And to this, it's like, "Kiss me, fat boy." It's just the absolute best height of comedy throughout this entire movie.
Dude, we haven't talked about it yet, but Ben's hideout that he creates, his honeycomb hideout that he makes.
I'm sorry. I've been a fat kid. How did a fat kid make that happen?
He had all summer, Doug. He had all summer by himself. When the team dispersed or whatever, none of the other losers helped him build it. At least we don't know. He built it. He dug a hole in the ground and created an empire, dude. By himself.
Granted, he did say the hole was already in there. He just kind of spruced things up. But it's like, Ben, I love you, but I was a fat kid, and I know fat kids hate being outside like that.
And being outside and being like working, and for that to be built in a summer, you would have been working on that every day
for a straight
month, tidying things up, man. Dude, was that
lying ass bed?
Man, that was already furnished, Doug. Was that in the book? Was a honeycomb hideout in the book?
I'm not terribly certain. I'm going to say no, though.
Interesting.
However, it is interesting that it was apparently adult Ben's fear factor.
That was his
trauma
place.
In some way.
It's
very interesting because there's supposed to be like places of negativity for these kids.
Yeah.
And I mean, Beverly had the bathroom where she was accused and assaulted, which makes sense. But for Ben, it's like, why is this place that you kind of helped create be a cool place for your buddies be a trauma for you? I don't get that.
Okay, remind me. When Pennywise confronted him at the high school, did he not get his totem then? From Pennywise? Or from Beverly? I do not remember.
I forget.
Because then there's later a scene where Ben is crying because Beverly is talking to Bill. And Ben remembers that scene of her kind of shunning him for being overweight. And he's crying because he's like, I'll never be able to talk to her ever. I don't remember.
I'm not too sure myself.
That's okay.
But anyway, Ben is better as a kid as compared to an adult.
100%.
But that's
unified. That's unilateral. Like,
yeah,
young Ben is infinitely better than old Ben both times in a row. But this Jay Ryan guy, he just pulled me out the movie because he didn't look like the role to me. Not saying that he did a bad job. You know, he just looked, I don't know. It took me out.
Too much.
Yeah, man. It took me out.
So then we get to the last of the losers, which is Stanley.
Once again, Stanley, man.
He looks like the most unchanged as a kid to adult. Am I wrong?
Yeah, the actor they got to play him was pretty spot on, even though he was only in the film for a moment. And
and I loved it how. We don't get anything for Stanley. If anything, we get more so as a kid, which is kind of funny, honestly.
Yeah.
Stanley's, I mean, he's kind of a punk. He's kind of a coward. This is known.
Yeah.
He becomes a creepy spider thing from The Thing.
I love that scene.
And then you see like Bill Hader's Eddie just go, "Oh, fuck this."
Yeah, and then when Stanley Spider is in the rafters, he's like, "Oh, there he is," and it just jumps on his face.
Yeah, and it's a constant callback to The Thing, like from the very beginning, like the camera shot of like the head splitting open and the gooey strands of legs,
and even the back shot of it being lit a certain way from the ground level. That's pure it. I mean, that's pure The Thing. That's pure The Thing. It's
because it's an amorphous, shape-shifting alien creature that kills people for fun.
Makes sense to me, man.
And I love how Richie's becoming like almost a fourth wall. Just goes, "Oh, fuck that."
Yeah, he already knows this is because the thing is in their heads, they know it's not real. So for a split, I think Richie is more in tune with that than any of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder for it to trick Richie. It's always been harder for it to trick Richie for some reason.
Because Richie's kind of like a cynical, maniacal hell. Just guy.
Yeah, and he just doesn't fall for it. Outside of the scene where it's a hilarious scene where Richie's talking shit and he just instantly enters the deadlights. Like,
yeah,
split second deadlight mode.
That's pretty good stuff.
But Stanley,
Stanley. The only thing he did that apparently unified them all was just kill himself.
But you know what? There's a poignant message he leaves at the end of the film explaining why he did what he did, which is still a coward's way out. I mean, you can't. I'm not going to sit here and be like, he did the right thing. Like, no, you know, he knew he would be the weakest link, and that he was afraid it would cost them their lives if he joined.
Now, granted, I can see that happening. Also, they kind of changed the ending a little bit, where all the kids remember each other still. Like in the movie and in the book, they very clearly state that once everything was said and done, they just started forgetting each other entirely.
Yeah, and even in the miniseries, you see the conversation between Mike and Bill, they start fading. They start forgetting each other's names again.
Exactly.
Whereas in this, you know, Bill and Beverly are just happy on the boat, reminiscing about what happened. Richie goes back to the bridge to leave his heart, which I thought was a very poignant moment.
That was so good.
I love that. That's my favorite part of the movie, him going back to the bridge to reinsert and to come to terms with his own feelings and his own identity. You know what I mean?
Not every ending has to be happy.
Very true. And that's the point of this. It sucks because that's the point of the book, right? That's the point of the miniseries. It's not the point of this movie.
True. That's very, very true. Not everyone gets a happy ending.
But in this movie, everybody, outside of the people who've passed away, maybe Stanley or Eddie, everybody else gets a happy ending.
Yeah. I also like how they made Richie a stand-up comedian compared to being a late-night talk show host.
I appreciate that better. And he's a successful one. He has like a Dave Chappelle level audience in his introduction.
Yeah.
Like he's a successful one. He's a successful one. And everybody seems to be doing pretty okay for themselves outside of Mike.
Except for Mike, yeah.
Mike's still at the house, you know, in the dungeons, bro. Like Ben is commanding a freaking boardroom. You know what I mean?
Of architect, boardroom, boardwalk, Wall Street empire people.
Yeah, it's like an empire, dude. You know,
Bev is a marketing sales genius, apparently. Eddie's a threat analysis, like we talked about before, and Bill is just Stephen King. Insert blah blah.
He's a Stephen King insert.
Yeah,
you know, so they're all doing pretty okay because they forgot. The only reason who's punished for it is Mike because he never left.
Yeah,
he never became anything.
He decided to stay in with the icky.
Yep, and be the silent protector, to be the sentinel, as it were.
So, what do you think, given all of this, of that final cut scene in the caverns? Fight scenes in general.
I thought it was I wish it was, and the thing is, I wish it was a bit more, because you got to compare both scenes, right? And it's feast or famine. With the miniseries, it's a hot mess.
Yeah,
because
it's pretty. They tried to adapt it and they didn't know how.
They didn't know how, right? So you got goofy foam latex spider, right? But the problem is that you fast forward all these years, you get to the end scene of this film, and it's goofy CGI spider.
Yeah,
it's the same
100%.
problem. It's the exact same problem that they couldn't think of anything more interesting to be the infinite unknowable it, right? Like it should be a creature beyond imagination, like Cthulhu levels, old ones shit, right? But they messed up in two reasons. A, it should have been more practical, and B, they fell back on the spider idea because they went to pay homage to the original miniseries.
Exactly.
And I think that was a bad idea.
But I mean, the spider thing is like how it is in the book as well. I mean, it takes the form of a gigantic spider because that's apparently it's more of its like more baseline true nature, evidently.
But I've seen horror movies like The Void and Mandy, for that matter, where you could do that and make it feel more gooey. You know what I mean? Make it feel more scary. But then again, I go back to my original question: is this for kids?
No.
Right? Like,
No,
are they toning down the terror in the unknowable to fit some kind of weird demographic they're trying to hit?
So, like back in the miniseries, they can do whatever they want because lower budget, lower constraints, lower people would say no. Lower amount of people say no. And this one is more mainstream. Oh, mainstream people like action, so give them some kind of stupid ass action scene to enjoy, I guess. But in the book, it's completely different. Like it's a ritual of Chud. It's a very mental battle where Bill basically tries to wrestle it as a cosmic entity across the span of the universe, and he does it pretty poorly as an adult, extremely well as a child, to the point of where Richie gets involved in the ritual as well. And basically, the two tag team the thing psychically down to the earth and really screw it over. And in the end, they start like a hunt in the middle of the caverns. They wound it. They go to go kill it. Eddie dies. But guess what? In the very end of that scene, Bill and Beverly stay behind because it is, shocker, female. Mostly female. Mm-hmm. It's a mostly female entity that lays eggs, that lays spider egg babies for little cosmic horrible goddamn nightmare creatures. And Bill and Beverly just have a freaking whack-a-mole competition smashing spider eggs here and there.
Did that happen? Okay, did I pass out? Did that not happen in the movie?
No.
Okay, you were talking like, okay, did I like freak out and not catch that? Like,
oh, sorry, I think I said it's in the book.
Okay, I'm sorry. My brain just broke out. I was like, what? That sounds awesome.
You're having a hard day today, aren't you, buddy?
I'm tired, man. Podcast listeners, it's hard, man.
It is hard.
It's hard, man.
So yeah, the book is a very different creature into itself.
Let's close this out by talking about Bill Skarsgård in this movie.
I mean, he hasn't changed. He's been a really good Monsters Pennywise, same as the first one. He's just good. He's just good. He does his own thing, like we've discussed this in chapter 1. He's taking his own approach to the creature, where it's more feral, it's more otherworldly than Tim Curry was. We mentioned the scene under the bleachers, the scene in Ben's vision in the school, even the opening scene where it kills that young lover on the river, and then it kills that one kid in the playhouse.
It kills the kid in the playhouse by pretty much just Tom Savini gore effect blood explosion on the mirror, indicating that kid's toast. And there's nothing Bill could do about it, man.
That kid was super dead.
That kid is toast. So you get the ferocity of Pennywise more so, and it could be a mixture of graphics. It could be a mixture of sensibilities. But I think a lot of it came from Bill's performance.
Bill, I think, knew what it means to be more of human, but he did a really good job of something that doesn't know that it's inhuman. Something that knows it's inhuman, it doesn't understand humanity quite so well.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It knows it's inhuman. It knows it's otherworldly. It knows it's eternal, and it needs to feign humanity to lure in children.
And I also really dig that he betrayed its fear at the very end as well, when it was basically, what do you even say it? It was bitch talked to death.
Yeah.
I just heard, whoa, that's a cat.
That's a cat. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to the Nerdiverse, my roomie's cat, who meows violently into the cosmos. Misfit.
When it's din-din time?
Yes, it's time to eat now, and I have no powers over the feeding times. So my roomie will be home shortly, and little kitty will get its food, and it will be quite happy. My roomie should be in probably in the next 10 minutes. But the cat lets the whole earth know when it's hungry. And that's okay. Because it's a kitty. And he needs his dun-duns. But with Pennywise, in this film, it, like you mentioned earlier, it's a closer adaptation to the book. I think it's a closer adaptation to the book. I missed out on the whole cosmic spider babies. I wish I got that. That would have been cool.
Yeah, like...
Mad I didn't get that.
Freaking Bill, like, going hammer, just going crazy and having a stomp fest like he's at a wine festival.
What was it? Bill? Was it Ben that went crazy and stabbed the Stanley head like 78 times?
Sorry, no. I'm thinking of the book. It's actually Ben who does it. Ben and Beverly do that, not Bill. Okay. Bill hunts down it as it's wounded with Richie in revenge of Eddie, who got mortally wounded or killed, I believe.
Okay,
it's been a while.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Dead end of the film. It's defeated. It's shriveling into almost an infancy form. It fades. It gets its heart ripped out. Fades away. Is it dead?
Oh, yeah, I think so. The thing is, the rules of how things work in the Stephen King universe, things can be cosmically big and cosmically powerful. But once they take a corporeal form, they have to follow the rules and limits of that form, including a limited form of mortality in a way, if it's vulnerable in such a way. So, for instance, if it became any kind of corporeal feature, it has to include a part of it itself enough that is its entire consciousness and being/soul. So if that creature, being, physical form, shell is destroyed in any way, as if a real human body would, it has to follow the soul transference procedure of life after death, or whatever the fuck happens after death in Stephen King universe.
Interesting. Because I thought it was,
It happens, I mean, it happens like a lot. And like the other stages of Stephen King books, like with all the freaking crazy ass Dark Tower series in general.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But things have to follow certain rules of nature. I mean, you can see it even in like freaking Pet Cemetery and honestly, Salem's Lot. There's rules in place that nobody really knows that well because these characters aren't that educated, but the creatures follow by these rules to some degree.
Can I just say for a second, rules of nature?
I know, right?
Sorry.
Freaking Metal Gear Revengeance soundtrack.
Need to get it out of my system. Sorry. Good. That makes perfect sense to me. Because in my head, I was like, okay, if this thing's eternal, it's not going to come back in another 27 years because that's the story. It doesn't. They've killed it for good. It's gone. And the turtle's just pop locking in space right now. You know what I mean? Turtle's like, yeah, boy.
Man, what I really want to see, I want to see The Stand.
I think you're going to get it, man. The Stand is coming out soon with Bill's brother, Alexander Skarsgård's playing the Man in Black.
He's going to play Randall Flagg?
He's playing Randall Flagg.
Really?
Yeah, Alexander Skarsgård from True Blood.
I did not hear about this.
That's coming out soon. Whoopi Goldberg's in it.
What the fuck? What is this? Oh, it's come. Wait, is this already out?
It's not already out because I would be watching it right now.
It's released on CBS All Access on December 17th. Oh, CBS?
Scared. Scary. It's going to be bad.
Yeah, CBS isn't always
crisp.
This guy played Tarzan in that really bad Tarzan update?
Yeah, man. Eric Northman, dude.
Oh, man.
Eric Northman, Doug, from True Blood, bro.
Oh, Jesus.
My choice for Century if they ever bring Century to the MCU, Doug. Skarsgård.
Well,
hopefully he has the acting chop. Eric, after watching many seasons of True Blood, I have no fear that Alexander can bring home the bacon, so to speak. But the script is where I'm scared, man.
I am in agreement with you because this could have
horrible.
Total meltdown in understanding how the novel works.
It could if they're not paying attention. If they're not if they're not passionate about it, you know the drill. Selling something based off name and not necessarily off of source material. We've seen it happen 1,000 times.
God, do I gotta like go back and just freaking reread The Stand, that like 600 to 700 page ass novel?
You might. I want to reread Dark Tower. I want to reread Dark Tower before they try it again.
Oh, Whoopi Goldberg. Okay, I see what place she's playing as now. I'm not gonna say much.
Yeah, because you don't want to spoil it. Speaking of spoilers, we need to wrap up this franchise, man. So before we do that, what do you rate It Chapter 2 on from 0 to 5 exploding blood balloons?
I would give this a solid 4.25 or an 8 in that 0.5 out of 5 and 10 is respectively. It's like really good. It's enjoyable. It follows along with the previous movie. It doesn't break too hard from the trends. It does things a little weakly here and there, like the whole Eddie and Richie looking at the haunted ass door with the mutant Pomeranian thing. Meh scene for me. But honestly, it's still enjoyable. It's a good movie. It gets its point across. So I'm going to give it a good solid 85. Like 85%. Solid B.
Nice. I would give it somewhere close. I would give like an 8, maybe a 7.5. I think it really it ties the story together. I think tighter than the miniseries did. As we know, the miniseries needed to be compiled into one film because it was so kind of dragged out. Whereas this 1-2 punch of Chapter 1, Chapter 2 really conceptualizes, I think, the true spirit of what King wanted to do. Like you said, there are certain weak points. There's certain things that need to be tied up, certain performances that I wasn't exactly thrilled by. But on a movie night to watch back-to-back Chapter 1, Chapter 2, you're going to have a good time. You know what I mean? I think you're going to enjoy it as a King fan and not as a King fan.
Yeah, honestly, it's really enjoyable. It's just super good in general.
Let's talk about final grades. So let's take everything we know from the book to the miniseries to this entire introspective on a scale of 1 to 5 of 0 space turtles to 5 space turtles. What is your grade on Stephen King's It as a concept?
I mean, 10 out of 10. It's just a great concept in general. Like it's so archetypal at this point. It's just influenced so many things. It's just priceless. I think it's great.
I'm going to go a 5 out of 5 or a 10 out of 10. Perfect score. This book has a lot to say. This idea has a lot to say about facing your fear, about relying on your friends, about accepting yourself as yourself, about, headless spider creatures. It has a lot to say. And throughout these years, throughout these decades, this story has been retold and applicable to multiple generations. It's inspired multiple generations through fear, through togetherness, through friendship. And I think that this is a book I would recommend to anyone that's of appropriate age to really understand that feeling of summer, that feeling of being with your friends. They mentioned in this movie, you think we'll be friends when we're older. It's like, how many adults do you know that are still friends with their friends in middle school? Yeah. That's telling. It makes you think, man. It's like, I have like one friend that I've known my entire life. My best friend. We don't talk a lot. He has a family. I'm doing my thing. But if I called him tonight, we would just hang out. It would be like we just fell right back into our friendship. That's the kind of friend he is. This movie encapsulates that. The return, right? Finding people that you've once known and relearning them again. What I mean?
It's very interesting because it's about bonds and friendship, but also maturing and accepting that things fall apart and things change without your control.
Yeah. And how do you bounce from that? How do you move forward? How do you grow? Mm-hmm. I love this series. That's why I was excited when you said you wanted to do it. I was like, yes, we can break this down. We can really talk about it. And as the first introspective, I am not only happy that it was our first introspective, I think this is a good flagship for the rest of the series. I don't know what the next introspective is going to be. Me and Austin will talk about it. It could be anything between Resident Evil, to Beauty and the Beast. We don't know. But this is a good start to the series. And I want to thank Austin for taking this journey with me. We've never done a 3-part series for Masters of the Nerdiverse.
All in one day. God damn it, I'm tired.
Oh, my arms are tired. I just flew in from Calcutta. And boy, my arms is tired.
Exactly.
Where can we find you, Austin?
Austin Ozzy on Twitch and Twitter. I am looking at Warhammer stuff recently because I am getting back into painting up little Warhammer mini things, and Mike's going to do Gundams eventually and send me a Gundam in the mail for me to crack off like fucking cocaine or this cocaine. This joke fell apart. I'll be honest.
That's okay. You can also find our channel at our website, mastersnerdiversecast.com, where we have all of our episodes archived, over 200 podcasts, ranging from movie reviews to video game reviews to news to fashion reviews. We've done it all over this time we've been a podcast. So you can definitely go to our website and listen to us there. You can also support us monetarily by going to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/MOTN, where you can support us monetarily and help our podcast grow. But if you wanted to support us non-monetarily, you can always comment on our episodes, subscribe to our channels, and you can always like our content, because we always need your feedback. We want to know how we're doing. We want to improve. So let us know what kind of job we're doing overall. And if this is your first time listening, I would like to say hello and welcome you to the Nerdiverse. I've, of course, been your host, Mike G.
And I've been your host, Austin.
And we will always ask you to open your mind. Open your mind.